7, right? Yes, you do. That's a great place to go. Okay. First, I know that I have the ability to achieve the object of my definite purpose in life. Therefore, I demand myself participate in these actions towards this statement, and I hereby promise to render such actions. Second, I realize the dominating thoughts of my mind will eventually produce themselves after physical action, and gradually transform themselves into physical reality. Therefore, I will concentrate my thoughts for 30 minutes daily on the task of thinking that person I intend to become, thereby creating in my mind a clear mental picture of that person. Third, I know that the principle of suggestion, any desire that I persistently hold in my mind will eventually seek expression through the action that takes them to action. Therefore, I will devote 10 minutes daily to demanding myself the development of self-confidence. Fourth, I have literally down to the situation of life, and I'll never stop trying until I shall develop the vision of self-confidence for anything. Fifth, I fully realize that no one can do this on your own, unless no one can adjust. Therefore, I will gain no transaction with God that will effect. I will succeed by attracting myself to forces I wish to use, and then cooperating with other people. I will consider the serene, because my feelings are not. I will eliminate hatred, envy, jealousy, self-criticism, by knowing love for all humanity. Therefore, I could never be success. I will help others to do things, because I will be them and myself. I will assign my name to this formula, commit its memories, and repeat it aloud once a day, with full faith that will gradually influence my thoughts and actions, so I will become self-development. Well said. Well said. Good. When following the captain and positive power, here again, when one, I dedicate 1 hour daily toward building and protecting my self-confidence. 2, I practice and internalize my self-skills and 1 hour every day. 3, I contact my serious influence by mail, by phone, and or in person if my team might not quarterly. 4, I make 150 plus contacts per week, 30 plus per day, by phone or in person. 5, I follow all the time on my meetings. 6, I send 5 plus 2 appointments per week to fire yourself. 7, I completely recall my 100% of my appointments. 8, I write 100% position for the 9, I call all my associates and consolidating every 3 weeks to 5%. 10, I sell 75% or more of my listed inventory. 11, I will return every single contact that inquired to the business. 12, I will work with alcohol my buyers when they don't qualify with the broker and assign a buyer broker agreement. Your more information is less time with less than expense. I recognize the success comes from therefore, I give it all yourself to confidence. Now I am the voice. Now I am the voice. I will lead, not follow. I will lead, not follow. I will believe, not doubt. I will believe, not doubt. I will create, not destroy. I will create, not destroy. I am a force for good. I am a force for good. I am a leader. I am a leader. Madhyad. Madhyad. Set a new standard. Step up. Step up. Step up. Step up. Step up. Step up. I'm a professional settler who gets my soul. I use the finish for my guidance to your goals. I highlight what is correct. I focus on quality every day. Realizing the interaction for abundant in any market. My ability to make you succeed. I get stronger with every step. I'm not sure of the situation. I know it's a mistake for the integrity. I always have productive thoughts. I take excellent care of my body. I try to stay with an abundance of energy. I am task-oriented. I set clear priorities daily. I know what I want to get. I attract and enjoy great financial abundance each day. I try to give you the abundant of success. I think prosperous thoughts. I am prosperous. I know I'm like a wife that I thought every day. Taking action to be supported. I'm here to start state. I enjoy being debt-free. I exercise daily. I enjoy helping my clients succeed. I eat healthful food. I'm a real estate expert. I enjoy having to be a real estate expert. I'm a professional. I'm financially independent. I earn commission leading something others. I have solutions. Prospecting is good for my business. I call inspiring for someone else. Prospecting is equal. I use technology to see. I get mentally sharper all day. I'm an outstanding salesperson. I'm a powerful agent. I know how to see. I keep positive, exciting, fun, productive thoughts in my mind at all times. Yes! Morning. Morning. Good morning. 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 Good morning. Morning. Good morning. How's everyone?
Awesome.
Good. Good. Seems like everyone's so happy on a Friday. It should be Mondays like this. Come on. So let's hear it. Gratitudes, wins. Who's going first? Yeah, Mike.
I took a listing yesterday.
Nice. Awesome. Awesome, man. Good job. Who's next? Who else took a listing?
I'll go, because you are talking today. So I'm grateful for Chris and help me get my mojo back of what I need to get doing. So, good job.
Yeah. I like your use of the word mojo too, by the way. It's not the first time I've heard that. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Rebecca.
Hi, Rebecca.
Hi, thanks for having me. A win is that I'm here. My dear neighbor Rebecca has been talking about this group for a while, so I'm grateful.
Well, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
And thanks for inviting her.
So it should be a year.
Still working
Seriously,
on mine.
follow up.
Yeah. It's good. It's good. Who else?
I'm Scott Laxton. I'm grateful for Rick and Brett and pushing me to get here, and then just the men that they are. So excited to be around everyone.
Same. I'm grateful for those guys. Who else?
I'll go. I'm grateful for the beginning of the year. It's been a very inspiring and motivation week, I think. Coming back in, having morning Ascent, having base camp, having Toastmasters. I think just everyone being so involved. I think everyone is inspired to get the year start strong, I guess. And it feels really good. We got a commercial property under contract yesterday, which is great. And it was a struggle for a couple of weeks, and so I think it's a good start.
Good. That's great. Very good. It's all about a plan, right?
Right.
Momentum, carry through the momentum. Have a plan. Awesome. Who else? Anyone else? Okay. So by way of announcements, UPW, if you don't know what that stands for, man, I don't know what to say, but Unleash the Power Within with Tony Robbins, March 14th to the 17th in LA. I was just in San Diego. Guys, every day I cry when I go outside now. So since my trip. So LA, warm weather, and it's absolutely incredible what Tony Robbins does. The presentation, he is a master at so many different traits, but bringing about change in people, absolute masters. So if you haven't gone to it before, ask someone who has. I have. I know Lindsay has. Lots of people in this room have. So ask them personally what they thought about it and how it affected them. Mike Ferry Production Retreat, Vegas, another warm place. January 14th to the 16th coming up. So coming up very quickly. So make sure you go. Invest in yourself. If you want to carry through that momentum in the beginning of the year, do that. And then Toastmasters here, 6th floor. Wednesdays, 1 o'clock every Wednesday, unless it's announced that we aren't doing one. But yeah, come if you want to invest in yourself again as a better communicator, and in so doing a better leader. Make sure you do that. And am I leaving anything else out at all? Okay. George.
Summit.
Summit, yes.
Summit's Tuesday.
We got to get that up there. Yeah.
So make sure you're there.
Okay.
I mean, seriously, that's one of the pinnacle points of this company is going to Summit and hear the great speakers. So make a point to be there.
And
You
for
just have
those,
to move your schedule.
yeah, for those outside of our company, other agents that are unfamiliar with who we are, there's great value in going to that, right? So invite them. A lot of times people just want to get an idea of a visual of what we're about, and invite them to Summit. Okay? All right. Okay, George.
Hey, welcome back. San Diego sounds great.
Oh, it was very great.
I heard you got stuck down there. How can you get stuck in San Diego?
Traffic-wise, if you're driving.
Did you fly or drive?
I did.
You drove?
Yeah, with children.
That's cool. All right, everybody. How's everybody doing today? All right. So again, how many of you like legitimately did all of your goal stuff and like you know where you're going so far this year? All right. Like for sure know where you're going, Justin?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Now there was like the G version or the nice version of that message that I gave. When was that? Monday or Tuesday? When was that? Tuesday? Then Rick got the version from yesterday on a coaching call. Well, Jeff, you were on that call actually. The other version of that message. Yeah. Which is basically do what you're telling others to do. Practice what you preach. So that the great challenge of this business is that we will walk in. In fact, this was the thing I was making light of, was something like this. It would be like you walking into a listing presentation and saying, oh yeah, we're going to do everything we can to get your home sold. And then you just simply lied to them because the very next day you didn't do what you said you were going to do, which is probably what? So this word starts with a P. Prospect. And I am fascinated as to how many times we will say one thing and do another, or we will promise that we're going to do all that we can to get a home sold, and yet I guess I would ask this, if your client follows you around every single day, and they followed you from point A to point B, I mean the whole day, would they be like, oh man, I am so thrilled and I am blessed to be listed with this individual? I would just ask you, could you really, really do that? My observation is that, we'll talk about, like I said yesterday in the call, I said, look, you know what, you can talk about the MLS, you can talk about all the things that you can buy in this business to, so many words, make your business better. But the reality is those who do the best in this business, what they've done is they've done the one thing you can't buy, which is that they actually discuss leadership at a listing presentation. They discuss leadership at a buyer presentation. They discuss how to navigate, counsel, consult, advise, and move people through a process when it comes to actually selling real estate. There's nothing exciting about an MLS, and if you believe that the MLS sells the home, the reality is, and there's why there was there, I don't know, if you take the whole Wasatch Front, there's 4,000 or 5,000 people every single month that are highly disappointed that their home didn't sell. So what is the difference of why one home sells versus another? Or why is it that one agent can keep a deal together over and over again and another can't? Why can a agent actually negotiate some level of success in regards to closing costs, or whether it be their commissions, or whether it be the way that the deal is put together? Why is it that they can do that? It's because of the leader and the communicator that they've become. So with that, we always talk about this, and here's the new year, but this was always the question that I've always asked for a lot of years. This isn't going to be new for most of you. But the reason it's not new is because it's the same framework that I've worked off for years. And that is that you've got to make sure that you're working off of this foundation. But another word that I would pose to you is just simply working off of what I would consider to be the fundamentals. See, my observation is that some of you still don't know what to say, and so you're coming up with scripts that make no sense. Some of you still haven't paid attention to how to say something, when to say something, and what to say, and you're modifying and tweaking and doing things that make no sense. And frankly, just to be candid, the reason I know that isn't because I'm a genius and I can have, I don't need anybody to tell me anything. I can just simply go and watch it, and I can see it, and I can watch it at 7:30 in the morning, and I watch all the things that are being created. And yet the reality is that those who seem to have the greatest success, it's interesting. Yesterday I was talking to Brian Burnett. Brian Burnett, by the way, ended up being the #1 agent in the entire company over all teams and all individuals. And he only won by $20,000.
Wow.
Interesting, by the way. He laughed when I told him. He said, you mean we were within $20,000 of each other? And I said, yeah.
Wow.
But let's just make sure we're clear. Brian Burnett, 2 years ago, was earning $600,000 when he joined the company. Today last year he earned $1.2 million. And the thing that is interesting to me about Brian is that one of his big issues is simply this. And that is that when he went through the process of building and starting to create a better environment for himself, in the last month of this year, he hired Eric Osmond. How many of you know Eric Osmond? And all of a sudden, he started getting appointments that made no sense. All of a sudden, he would get these mushy, wishy-washy, like weird appointments that didn't make any type of sense. And so then he got on the phone with Eric and said, what script are you using? What are you doing? And then he found out that it was just some contrived piece of crap that was put together to put some stupid script together that made no sense, just so that you could show up a body and somehow beg, plead, and maneuver, manipulate some level of an actual listing. Well, for 2 straight weeks, Brian basically trained Eric to actually use, guess what script, Steve? Just guess. The Mike Ferry script. And guess what? Last week, how many listings do you think they took from his appointments? That all Eric does, sets appointments. How many listings do you think he took last week? 2. I find it fascinating how quick we are to change a script, a dialogue, and a way in which we say things, and we don't really think about the magnitude of how we say it, when we say it, and what we say. And the reality is that if you take the number 1 agent in the entire company out of 525 agents, he walks into every single appointment and says these words: I have 3 real important questions for you. And I'm okay if you have gotten good enough to tweak things, but some of you are tweaking things that have no business in tweaking things, right? You have no business in like maneuvering a different script because you've never had enough success to warrant it. And it's not to be critical, not by saying like, oh my gosh, he's being so harsh on me. No, it's the fact that I want you to have extraordinary success. I want you to have, 2 listings like Brian took last week, right? I want you to be able to say to yourself, you know what? I know what I'm going to say, I know when I'm going to say it, and I know how I'm going to say it. And it really, in the end, just remember that if we look at just the basics of communication, 7% of what you say, or 7% of communication, is simply the words that you say. I mean, there's study after study. This one's just the one from UCLA several years ago, and 38% of it is the tone of your voice, and 55% of it is your body language. That's why door knocking is so powerful, because you get to use all 3. And you may speak to less people, but you get to use all forms of communication. So the real thing I would just ask you is, whatever it is that you're doing, and whatever it is that you think is the right way, I would just challenge you to take a step back. And if you're getting all the results, but I know pretty much everyone's income in here, and some of you are still winging it. And people will say, well, how do you know what to say, George? Because for years I would study for anywhere between 1 to 2 hours a day, chanting, rehearsing, memorizing, writing, rewriting, writing again, script after script after script after script. And it wasn't until years later that I actually then said, you know what? What happens if I move that a little bit? What happens? Does it have any impact? Does it change anything? You know what? Most of you in this room are not in that place to be able to even think through that, not again as a criticism, but to simply just say, what happens if you follow the program? Because the number 1 agent who made $1.2 million in Utah is in St. George, of all places. Let's just make sure we're clear here. St. George. And you would think, well, he must have a huge SOI. Does anybody know his story? How many years has he been there? 2. And where did he start his career? Here. He started it here. He spent almost an entire career. He's only been there for 3 years. So he's gone from basically nobody to basically one of the top 1, 2, or 3 agents in all of St. George, if not the number 1 most profitable agent in St. George. He has one of the highest, here's what's interesting also, he sells the most volume. Him and Lutran are right neck and neck with the highest volume along with the highest percentage of commission. What does that tell you?
Doesn't discount.
Correct. Highest volume with the highest level of commission. He is millions of dollars ahead of anybody in this company in regards to volume because of one thing he doesn't do almost, I'm going to say almost ever. And what is it? He doesn't reduce his commissions. Fascinating. So I'm pointing this stuff out because not again as a criticism and a smackdown, but my gosh, if you will figure out what to say, just remember what I'm saying, what to say, how to say it, right? And then there's nothing up here to say when, right? Because timing is everything, right? Like if you were repeating a firm and you say, hey, help me understand why you're trying to sell the home. They say, my mother died, and then the answer isn't, your mother died, that's great. That is probably the wrong timing, just for the record. Right? Even though you're like, well, I repeated an affirm. Yeah, I know. But because you usually don't know what to say, you're not listening to them, then you use the wrong timing. So timing is critical, right, to like what you say. And then, of course, when you say it, and when you say what you say, and how you say it. All right, so with that, this is what I want to just go through real quick. So if I look at number 1, It's that question that I was asking a few days ago. What is your purpose? Why are you here? What drives you? Right? I'm fascinated that so many of us don't really know, or we regurgitate, well, I went here and they told me this is my purpose. Okay, that's my purpose. Do you really, like in your heart of hearts, believe that is why you exist? And whatever that reason is, you better find it. Because I can promise you it is the passion, it is the drive, it is the emotion, it is the heart, it is the soul behind everything that you do. And if you move from that, then you don't sit there and dread the day of prospecting. You walk out on the floor of prospecting and you're excited because you get to help someone, change someone, impact someone's life. There's a reason why Tony Robbins, right, because what is the last, who knows what the last thing Tony Robbins says right before he walks out on stage? He has his whole mantra, but he says one last thing before he walks out. Besides Lindsay Wardle, does anyone else know what he says? Okay, Lindsay Wardle, what does he say? He doesn't.
Who can I help today?
No, that's actually, but I appreciate that you said that. That is usually mine. Even today, I walked out in the garage, I look up at the sky, I look at the moon, and I go, today, whose life will be blessed because I showed up? That's a different story than, oh crap, I got a prospect today. I'm just a different, but that's mine. But what does he say? He says, actually, Lord, use me. That is the last thing he says, that he walks out and he says, Lord, use me. For him. All right? Now he has a whole mantra that he does, affirmations, like a thing that he's done since he was 19 years old, and then the last words of his mouth, Lord, use me. So my point to you is, I don't know if that's what you and your purpose is. I don't need it to be that. I just know that you need to be driving your life from a different place in almost all cases. When you are bored, it is mundane, you're distracted, you're depressed, you're anxious, you're fearful, promise you, you're not operating from a place of purpose. You're probably operating from scarcity, fear, greed, anger, ticked off. It's nowhere near your purpose. But the reality is that when you are connected to that, you don't worry about what you're doing. You're not sitting there worried about how many doors or, well, you know, the temperature's a little cold, so I guess I can't. I mean, it doesn't matter. If it's the summer, it's too hot. If it's the fall, it's too windy. If it's the spring, it's raining. If it's the winter, it's too cold. I mean, at what point do you does it matter really what you do every day based on what the weather report is? Right? I mean, think about what we do. All of those are answers based on the fact that we are not operating from here. That is not where we're operating when that nonsense is going on, emotionally and mentally. Okay, so number 2, right, is, and I said this on the, oops, I got ahead of myself, not plane, hold on, I got ahead of myself. Goals, plan, and schedule. I've said it is absolutely unacceptable. Let me tell you something. If there's anybody in here, I would love to have you let me know. You can send me a text. If you have not sat down with your manager to know your purpose, your goal, your plan, and your schedule, and how you're going to be held accountable and what you're going to participate in, I just want you to know it is, for me, grounds for termination of any manager in this company. So if you don't know who your manager is, already that's a problem. So if you want to get serious about your business, know your purpose, know your goals, know your plan, know your schedule, and identify what you're going to participate in. Anything less than that, for me, if I have the chance to sit down with the manager, and as they all know, that if I have an agent come into my office and says, hey, I'm thinking of leaving, and my next question is, who is your manager and who do you report to? And if they shrug their shoulders and go, I don't know, my next step will be, if you leave, my next step will be to fire the manager. That is the fact. So just take it as serious as a heart attack. I guess that was the message more to my managers, wasn't it, Kelvin? But I just wanted to make sure that they were clear, because that would be a problem. I don't want them to be confused when I come right back around and go, you're fired. Okay? Number 3. Any confusion, Rick? No. Was that clear? Justin, clear?
Clear.
Okay, just making sure. Because like yesterday I said, Jeff, what did I say? Isn't it awesome how I have all my managers doing what? Rewriting, what did I say? Their job description. Like, they rewrote it. They didn't realize what the job was when I said this is the job. And they went, well, wait, I thought that was the job. No, this is the job. We recruit, we retain, we coach, we train, and we hold people accountable and recognize them through the process. So if that's not happening for any of you, then you know that your manager is failing you, unfortunately. That is the
I would
reality.
find out who our manager
Just
is.
for the record,
Exactly, Justin. Isn't that interesting?
No, I'm just kidding.
Rick is mine and he knows my goals.
All right, good job. Okay, Rebecca, don't get scared. I'm not this nice. You are? Okay. All right.
Speaking my language.
People keep asking if I'm on one, and I am not on anything, just for the record. I just am committed. In fact, you know what my son just a few days ago, he goes, you know what, I'm not listening to you. That's just the pre-workout talking. The pre-workout talking. I said, what did you say? He goes, that's just the pre-workout talking. I'm all, what? So anyway, all right. Mindset. All right, so again, you should be able to check some balances, man. If you are off the mark, even though I want your manager to sit down with you, I want him to be able to say, okay, hey, tell me what you want. What do you want? Why do you want it? Where's your plan? Where's your schedule? There should be 3 fundamental questions that every manager should be asking you. What do you want? What are your challenges? And what are you doing with your time? If you're not being asked those 3 questions, it is a failed coaching session. Coaching is not a hug. It is not a, hey, just want you to know I love you and you're great. That's nice. But what I want is I want you to get what you want. I want you to know why you want it, and I want you to follow a plan. I want you to have a schedule, and I want you to be accountable to someone. I don't care whether it's me, if it's Rick, or whoever. You got to be accountable to someone. It's been so awesome to see all the different plans and goals that have come my direction over the last 7 days, because I have been hell-bent on this message. Because I am tired. I don't know. I said this in the message yesterday. I don't know why I am so obsessed with wanting you to be your very best. That's the one thing I ask myself, why do I even care that Justin makes a lot of money? Then they'll have people say, well, yeah, you don't care beyond them hitting their cap. And I'm thinking to myself, I don't even know whether you hit your cap or not hit your cap. I don't give a crap about your cap. What I care about is whether or not you are winning. And I can look in your eyes as to whether you are or not. I can look at whether you're settling, and if you and I can look at whether you're really being disciplined and doing your job and living your dreams and chasing after what you really want. And the problem is I sit there and watch, and this is the questions I asked 25 years ago. These were the questions in a conference room the office that Leslie Thorpe worked in. I said to myself, what do people like Leslie do? Usually you're sitting there. I just pointed over there. It changed on me. All right? But I asked the question, what do these people do? And that's where this came up with. Yeah, a little refinement over the years, but not much. Same answer. I'm like, well, you know what? I know the deep sense of purpose. I know they're following a plan. They got goals. They know why they're doing. They have a schedule they're following. They have people holding them accountable. They're being coached by someone or something or some outfit, or whether it's in the company or out of the company. They have a powerful mindset. They believe in themselves, right? They believe in their path, and then you start looking at others like, okay, well, then they have a high level of skill set, right? And then what to say, when to say it, like I was talking about, and how to say it. Number 5 is they're highly disciplined, and because their desire is so high, that when you have a high level of desire, you have a high level of discipline. If your desire, your purpose is weak, it is an automatic of what your discipline will be. What will it be, Justin? Weak. That's the deal. And I think I am a cream puff to what I used to be. He sat in a room one time and I just said, I want to expose why I believe all of you are losing at life. And that was the epic message I've ever given, ever in the history of my entire life.
It was amazing.
That's right, you were there too, John. And then I remember I got something from him. I want to say text. I don't know if texting wasn't even that cool back then, but probably something that said something like, I remember something from you like, why not to be a loser or something. Do you remember that? Do you remember that conversation, Jason?
I do.
Yeah. It was kind of like this, since I'm on a roll. It was kind of this deal. If you're losing, can you at least acknowledge that you're losing? It's like looking in the mirror and going, well, my thyroid and my big boned and I'm stressed and you try to give all these reasons why your health is what it is instead of just simply saying, I'm fat. And like when you're losing at this business, just simply say, I'm losing or I'm fat. Right? It's like the Jim Rohn, right? He goes down that path of like, it's really bad if you're sick, because it's really bad if you're sick and ugly, and then if you're sick, ugly, and tired. And he gives. Have you ever heard that? That is like the classics of classics. All right. But my point is just acknowledge where you are, right, Jeff?
That's right.
I love what Jeff sent me. Do you know what he sent me, Matt? He sent me a thing that said, I realize I am fat.
I got that too.
Did you get that?
Yeah.
Oh, man, I'm serious. It's awesome. Like acknowledging,
Well, hey.
And you are big boned, but you're still, right?
Yeah, Hey, George, the other thing that was cool, maybe he asked you the same thing. He said, just ask me how I'm doing. Ask me if I'm still fat.
Yeah.
Keep checking on me.
Yeah. Well, I get to check in almost every day and see.
Yeah. Well,
And I was like, here's the commitment. I said, when are you going to stop wearing the drapes to the gym? like hiding like everything. And so February 1st, Matt, he's committed that he will wear tight
Spandex.
shirts. Yeah, spandex. From here up.
Oh my God.
All right.
Per George's request.
Could be a fashion
Yeah.
fashion show or workout.
Oh my God.
So leading to that, some of you will never come back. It's okay. Systems. All right. So systems. So you got to have a system in place. All right. So look. In other words, just I put strategies next to here. Sometimes strategy is another good one. But look, when things aren't going right, this is what I'm looking like. I'm going. All right. Am I moving life? Am I like connected to my purpose? All right. Do I know what my absolute goals? Like yesterday, or 2 days, 3, 4 days ago, when you're writing down 20, 30 goals, whatever they are. I still would say that you need to dial it into 1, 2, or 3 goals. Okay? I mean that would be like the primary. Like I have 3 primary goals that are really critical to me, right? Like one of them is, as most of you know, I want to create a legitimate relationship with my birth mother. That's like one of my top 3 goals this year because I still haven't had a conversation with her, right? So there's 3. Now there's other things. But the other 2, right? One of them is really business related to growth, right? Right? Like I had Ilona ask me yesterday. I was so red faced. Someone came in. I was so pissed, and I was just. I was like red as red. Do I look red now? Maybe, I don't know. Maybe I was red. And Sean Hilton came and goes, are you okay? I'm like, I am great. And what I had looked at, as you can imagine, was the goals of last year in relationship to the recruiting actuals of my managers and my people in my company. And I literally, for hours, was steaming furious. So, actually, I never calmed down from that. That might be just a little bit from here. So, that might be where it's all coming from, ladies and gentlemen. You guys really caused me tremendous stress. That's my whole thing. All right, so this is the deal. I'm not even. Okay, hold on. I keep trying to get to this, and I just want to remind you. Just what do I almost always say at every daily message? There's nothing
You cannot do.
and nothing, right? Nothing you can't learn, nothing you cannot do, right? So that's just my whole point. I don't care whether I'm talking about managers with recruiting or managers with coaching, or whether I'm talking about you prospecting, and and when nothing makes me more angry, Kelby, than a manager going to go prospect. You know what? Every one of you should ask back to your managers. Did you call 5 people and set 1 appointment today? That would do me the greatest favor if every one of you could do that. Because for them to say, did you prospect, and then they didn't call 5 people and set 1 appointment, you should say things like, you realize you're on the course of being terminated, right? Because that's how you get fired. Okay? So I appreciate the agents being here as I'm talking to my managers. Okay, so skill sets. There's only maybe 11 or 12 of them, and I'm just going to give them. Timber, are you ready? Doesn't this make you excited? Like Ruby's been talking about getting in the management team. I don't know if she'll ever want to do that now, John, but things like that. All right, so number 1 is the ability to do the one thing that we have to do, and that is set appointments, right? You have to have the skill set of setting appointments. So I'm just going to wrap up here 10 skills, and if you learn these skills, guys, you win the game. So you don't need to sit there and go, wow, what is the market doing? It doesn't matter what the market's doing. It's irrelevant. I mean, it's cool that you look at it at some level so you can talk intelligently, but in the relationship to thinking that high inventory, high interest rates, what other agents are doing, what unemployment is doing, what investors are doing, what buyers are doing, it's cool that if you want to like talk about all of that for a minute, but it has nothing to do with what you do every day. Because every day, even in the worst of the market, 1 out of every 22 people wanted to do something in real estate, meaning either buy a home or sell a home. So the thing is that even in a shift in the market, this is just simply a normal market, the question is, are you going to talk to enough people? Because if you don't talk to enough people to be able to do this number one skill set above all things that you will learn how to do, then it's not going to matter. It's not going to matter what the market's doing. And I can show you people over and over again in the market that have high-level success despite whatever the market's doing. It's irrelevant because it comes down to you communicating with people, leading them, and taking them through a process, and creating business instead of waiting for business. Creating business instead of buying business. In the end, I don't care if you want to call internet leads, call them. Just an expensive way to do business. But in the end, even internet leads, you have to call them to be highly effective at them. So either way, whatever you want to do, I don't really care. You want to call them? Great. It's expensive. You want to go do open houses and wait for people to show up? You can go do that. Doesn't mean you can't get a deal from an open house. You can. And you can get a deal from an internet lead. And you can get a deal from farming, and you can get a deal from waiting. You can get a deal from your Facebook ad or your Facebook platform, or you can be the next Gary Vee of Instagram, and I'll get a few deals from there. You get all of it, but it will never ever be consistent unless you consistently talk to people. Okay, so you have to have this skill set. Do you think that Brian Burnett is contingent, or do you think Brian Burnett is worried about the market?
No.
He doesn't care. Do you think that he is worried about internet leads, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, and having a presence online? No. Just this year, for the first time, he started throwing some things out on Instagram. Do you think that he even has seen it? I said, hey, I saw your thing on Instagram. He goes, oh yeah, what's up there? He's not the one doing it. He's not the one like showing the community of St. George. How many have seen a little bit of that from him? Anybody seen that? All right. Anyway, there you go. My point is that it doesn't matter because he knows how to do this every single day. And his frustration with Eric Osmond, and just as and Lindsay works with him too, is simply training him how to actually use a script and follow it and set legitimate appointments. He said yesterday, I just want to know, he said, Eric, I want them to have answered. When I come out and you feel comfortable and confident that I can sell your home, are you planning on listing your home with Brian? Well, but what? He was all worried about that. I said, yeah, that's a real appointment. But if you can't set lots of appointment, you'll be like, in the next 50 years, are you going to sell your home? Okay, I'll be over. Maybe? All right, I'll be there. Possibly? Oh yeah, I'll be there. I'll be there in a minute. And you'll be like cheering, rolling down, high-fiving the office. I set an appointment, and like, well, did they say they're going to list? Well, maybe. Well, that's not an appointment. But if you don't talk to enough people, you never get to ask those questions. And if you don't set enough appointments, you don't get legitimate appointments. And I love the fact to a compliment of what Jeff's doing, is he set a number of appointments these last few days, and now he's like, well, wait, I got to decide which ones I'm going to go on. That's a great problem to have. Some of you don't have that problem. Some of you aren't talking to enough people to ever get past this to even set the appointment. And if you set one, you are so excited and so emotional about it. You're doing your CMA, you're doing all these things, you're wrestling mentally with it, and you set an appointment. And like somehow have like thought it's already at the bank. Instead of just getting back on the phone, and the best time to set the next appointment is the time that you just set right after the time you set the last one. right? Just right after. There's so much momentum. You're mentally there. Stay on the phones or knocking in the doors. Okay, number 2, and then we got to go. All right. I'm just going to list these, and I won't try to say anything. Every time now I know all these rules of Toastmasters, Rick, and you're not supposed to turn your back to the audience, so I'm turning my back on you, just for the record. All right. All right. Follow up. Right. You got to be able to do lead follow up. Number 3, you got to be able to. Let's just put. I'm going to put here price the home. So the CMA. Have your list. I'm just going to put here your listing pack or whatever together. Right. And then number 4, you got to be able to present at a listing and also to a buyer. Right. Number 5 is you got to be able to handle objections. Right. When they say, "Will you cut your commission?" Your first question isn't, "Well, how much?" Yeah, that's not in the script book. Kelby, did you know that?
Yeah.
That's not in there. It doesn't say, "Oh, how much?" It doesn't say that. It says, "No." Any other questions? Right? Now, if you wanted to soften, you could say, "Well, I really can't do that," so the answer is no. I mean, I used to say things like that, like just a little softness to the answer, but the answer, and then we just stare at each other and they go, "Okay." But all of you, before 7% gets out there and you're like, "Hey, let me give you a good one here." Then you cross it off. You're so worried that they even see 7, and you never even talk about 7. Instead of just simply looking at them going, "My commission is 7%. Any problems?" And then they say things like what? Well, isn't it normally 6? Well, I'm abnormal. It's 7. That's what I used to say, something like that. Or and they say things like, "Well, I thought commission." I say, "No, it's 7." They say, "Well, I thought commissions are negotiable." And then I say, "Well, they are. What would you like, 7, 8, or 9?" And they say, 7 sounds great. And I say, "Great. You ready to get started?" And you guys are like, "Do you really do that stuff?" And I promise you I did that in presentations. Because I would just lighten the mood and they would realize, yeah, this is going nowhere. It's 7. That's correct. So just, again, can you handle objections? All right, number 6. Right? Can you close the sale? Right? Can you legitimately, when they say, when you say, "Hey, great, let's take care of the paper, or let's sign the contract," and then they say, "Well, wait, what about your commissions?" And you resolve that and you come back and say, "Okay, great, are you ready to sign the contract?" Can you legitimately close? Not the, "Hey, Jeff, I'll call you when you're ready to make your ultimate decision and let me know." Right? Or what I call the 75% commission, "Well, I've shared a lot of stuff with you. I'm really excited to help you and I'm hoping that I can be your agent." That's not closing. That's what I call the 75% close. I'm weak, I'm a chicken, and I'm not going to just simply say, "Jeff, I want to be your agent, sign the contract." I mean, it just, again, the boldness, right? That's that nurturing, the bold side, 5% bold, in their face, tenacious, say it how it is, and then 95%, great, nurturing. So I want to be like I've said this many times. Kelby, "You're overpriced." I know this is really tough, and it's really hard. I'm so sorry, but you're overpriced. And I really want you to know how hard this sell is. I can only imagine you're not getting as much money as you expected, and I want you to know I really do feel bad about that, but you're overpriced. That's the 5% of the boldness. But all of you are commiserating and never really say you're overpriced. You say things like this: "I know it's tough, and it's really hard, and I don't know what we're going to do. How about I do an open house this week?" That's what you guys do, and I know you do it. Or you do things like, "Well, I'm going to throw this on our company Facebook page, and there's tons of people that see it, so let's just give it another week and see what happens," instead of just simply saying, "Kelby, you're overpriced." Because we're so worried about people liking us that we are worried about liking versus trust and honesty and integrity. I'm telling you something. Most human beings are more committed to being liked than telling the truth. And if you can't distinguish between the two, especially in the sales process, that I must tell the truth despite whether you don't like me or not. But the truth is, that used to be my script, by the way, you are overpriced. I know you may hate me, but you're overpriced. I had to be okay, Jeff, if people hated me. Well, now I'm totally okay with that. There's a whole line. There's lots of people who don't like me. And they don't even know me. They're like, "I don't like that guy." Have you ever met him? No, but I don't like him. heard about him, and
Give him a chance.
you know, right? All right, 7, customer service. This is where people go, oh, I'm so good at that. Well, you probably are. But that's like the maintenance of the transaction, not the actual how you sold the transaction. All right, let's just do these last few. Number 8, obviously the ability to work with buyers, show homes, you know, do the whole deal there. Number 9 is to be able to negotiate contracts. Number 10 is the ability to future pace, right? The ability to predict the future, like, hey, or just simple things. Hey, the sign will be up in the next 3 days, you get up the next day. Under promising, over delivering, right? And making sure that process happens. These are here's the deal. If you could, and I didn't do this, I forgot to do this for you, but you should rate yourself on a scale 1 out of 10 on each one of these. And if you're at least an 8 or more on each one of these skills, well, here's what I can tell you. Let me ask you a question. Do you think Brian Burnett is an 8 or more on all 10 of those skills?
I think he is.
I guarantee you. He very well may be a 9, 10, or an 11 out of 10.
He doesn't deviate.
Oh.
From what he's doing.
So my point is that if this is all you have, some of you are new. How many of you are newer to the business? All this is that you just learn a skill, right? I mean, this amazing lady Leslie Thorpe's been in this business for 40 years, but I know that she's practiced scripts and dialogues and really got all of these skills down, like mastered them. She's an 8 or more, and I know she's not going to say, "Well, I could still improve." Of course, she can improve, but she's at least an 8 on every one of these. You don't do what she's doing and has done for decades, right? I mean, 100. I remember when I first met her, she was selling 100+ homes a year. Back when that wasn't like normal at all, at any level. And I remember, she'd tick me off. She'd send this expired thing out of like hundreds of names of people and say, "These are all the reasons why you should list your home with me." I'd be like, "Grr." I'd see it there when I would be like going on a listing appointment, and it would be sitting there, and I knew what I was competing with because of all the success that she's had over all these years of mastering this. So again, you can focus on the market, the rates, the unemployment, or the employment. You can talk about what the market shifts are. You can talk about the inventory. You can talk about what other agents are doing, brokers are doing. You can talk about the discount of commissions. You can talk about it all. But it doesn't matter. If you will master these things, meaning putting all this into that, right? How, when, and what, you'll never wonder how to do business. It will not matter what the market's doing. In the worst moments I have ever had in this business, this has never been more true. I'm talking about this now, it's a good market. I mean, Carlson, we were talking about this when it was the worst market in the last 100 years. And guess what? Unemployment was at its worst. Inventory was ridiculous. 1 out of every 10 listings were selling. But I realized that when I was carrying 57 listings, to have 5 listings sell a month, that I just knew there was nothing I couldn't do and there was nothing I couldn't learn. So you do it. And you fill the gap, whatever that is. Some of you will come, let's just say, to earth in so many words with a lot of this stuff. Maybe you're really good at some point of like, you walk in and you're really good at another one. I missed another one. There's price reductions in there you should put down, by the way. Miss any others?
You talked about it.
Jason? I don't know.
Pricing.
Right? I know I do pricing, but I usually have it as a different list. Oh, you know what? And I usually put time management. So time management and price reductions, if you want to add that to the list. Okay? So, look, again, I would rate yourself on a scale of 1 out of 10, and then if it's me, and what I always have done for years, is I pick the top 1, 2, or 3, and say, man, which one for the next 90 days am I going to focus on, and I am going to get down, and I am going to master, and I am going to create within myself. And I will role play it. I will write it out. I will take it. I mean, think about this. How many of you are role playing, not by show of hands, but role playing, recording your prospecting or your presentations, right? If you want to tell the client, great. If you don't, whatever. It doesn't matter. It's not illegal to record anybody in the state of Utah. I mean, you're planning. I mean, I hope no one has to use your listing presentation at court of law. I mean, they'd be suing you. They would usually. What do you do? Right? Right? I mean, my point is that you know, are you recording it? Right? And then are you videoing? Nowadays, it's so easy to do. Are you videoing your role plays and going back? Are you recording your prospecting and you know and hearing what you're saying? Right? And are you writing it all down? Are you then chanting it and reading? I used to read every script 10 times every day. People will say, well, that took a long time. Yes! 1 to 2 hours. For a 1 hour football game, I mean, they milk it out, but for a 1 hour football game in the NFL, how many hours of practice, rehearsing, preparation, and practice is had for every single 1 hour football game? Does anybody know? Like, what's the guess?
60 minutes to 1 minute.
Pardon?
60 minutes to 1 minute of playing time.
Yeah. Yeah. 60 plus hours to prepare for 1 hour. You guys will go. Who golfs? Anybody golf in here? Do you when you golf, Jeff? Do you prefer to go to the range before you step up on the first tee?
Yeah.
It's called practice. It's called warming up. I still remember, and I'll leave you with this. Some of you have heard this. The stories get repeated, but I still remember right by the downtown 6 South exit. I was on my way to a listing in Bountiful, and when I was down there, I was driving in the fast lane going 80 miles an hour with a script book in my hand, and I still remember the lights on the side of me, and I had a police officer turn on his lights, and he went, and I was reading scripts, driving in the fast lane 80 miles an hour, like everything you shouldn't do. I mean, and I still remember the police officer going, and I realized I'm all, and he's like nodding his head, and I'm like, oh, and I put my script book down. Yes, unfortunately he did not pull me over, but he was so pissed that I was reading and practicing and rehearsing. How many of you recorded on an audio or something on your phone, and you hear, and every script and dialogue? What if you went to sleep listening to that? I had script books on my front seat of my car, in my office, and on my bedstand. Because every single moment I could practice, I tried to. And some of you are like, I don't like to practice. You're right, and here's the difference. You can be like a Brian Burnett or a Leslie Thorpe making $600, $700, $800 million plus a year, or you can struggle every day and wonder if the planets align themselves and someone calls you and you're able to get a deal and you do 8, 10, 12 deals a year and you'll say, well, but I'm better than, where I was. I'm making like a few thousand more than my last job. That's not, you should be in this job to get rich. But then the riches come to be able to deliver your highest levels of purpose. And the money allows you freedom to choose. Instead of being dictated by the business, you're dictating the business because you have created a schedule, a plan, and you follow it. So, anything else? Did I miss anything? Prove it, I missed anything. Whole kitchen sink, Dan. Matt, anything? Did I miss anything?
Nothing.
Okay.
You covered everything.
I did, well, hey, John, my local expressive here, he's got something.
Just talk about how your wife come to play.
Hi, oh, absolutely. All right, here we go. I succeed because that's not my goal. I'm an optimist. I like talking to new people. I know it's important to me. I heard people say, I say line and quality. I'm passionate about real estate. I know consistency is my favorite goal. I like asking questions listening. I enjoy reading for myself too. I'm confident in my goals and I feel home. I focus on my understanding. I represent the power of clarity. I improve my skills daily. I'm happy. I love the prospect that feeds my business. I see my future is awesome. I love my life. I'm grateful and thankful. I control my thinking. I believe in me. I feel understanding. I use my abilities honestly daily. I get things done. I provide excellent service. I drink water daily. I connect with people. People love me. I love others. I'm disciplined, accountable, and making a schedule. I prospect daily. I set a point to see. I'm a master persuader. I achieve my goals. I'm a real estate rock star. I'm passionate about my life. I live every day with purpose. I'm confident in my sales skills. I know my destiny. I'm healthy and strong. I'm powerful. I'm unstoppable. I use positive strategy.